So welcome to EFT for COVID-19, creating peace amidst uncertainty. My name is Andrea Crisp, and then my colleague Chris Mandeville is joining as well. We're really excited to have you here for our second call. Last week, we got lots of great feedback from everybody, so we're happy to have some familiar faces returning and some new people as well. So thanks so much for joining us. We're going to have people's video and sound off, except for Chris and I, until we get to the portion where we're asking for a volunteer. But if you have questions or comments, you can do that in the chat. So there is a chat function that is available. Yeah. So again, I'm Andrea Crisp. I am a certified and accredited EFT practitioner through EFT International. I've been using EFT myself since 2006 and been using it with clients since 2009. Of course, I didn't have training in the beginning. I was just dabbling with it, but I've been trained now and accredited for quite a while. And it's my favorite tool to use with coaching clients. So thanks for joining me.
Yeah, and I'm Chris Mandeville, and I am recently certified in EFT, but I've been dabbling with it for a while. Like a lot of people, I first heard of EFT, I think, with the tapping solution, and then I moved from Indiana to Portland, and I ended up finding some training out here, and I got certified, and it's been really great. I live in Portland with my husband and our little bulldog named Dee. And I'm happy to have everyone here today. Really nice to have you join us. Oh, and I'm next. So to start, we wanted to do a little grounding exercise, just to get you in the room. We've all been out and about in our day-to-day, not out and about, maybe at home all day today, and you may have a lot of things going on. And so just to get you in the room, I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise with me. So I want you to just take some deep breaths in and out, just slowly. And as you do, you might soften your gaze a little bit. And then I'd like you to feel your feet on the floor, your butt on the chair, or wherever you're at. Maybe your back against the chair as well. Notice any sounds you hear. Any colors in the room. And just get present to being here. If you have other thoughts or concerns, you can just let those go for now. Keep taking a few deep breaths. And when you're ready, you can just go back to your normal breathing. You can go back to focusing on your computer screen. It's just a little exercise to kind of like get you in the room, get you present to what's happening here as opposed to what's happening in your head. Anything else on that, Andrea?
No, it was beautiful.
Yeah, you can do that anytime. A lot of places you can just try that. It's a good way to just kind of get present. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So we just wanted to share basically our intentions for this. We're going to be offering, the intention is to offer this weekly while the pandemic is going on. It's a free call. We really think that EFT is such a great tool that we want to get it into the hands of as many people as possible. There's lots of benefits that you get from working with a practitioner, but it's also a self-help tool. So once you've really learned it, you can take this and use this in your daily lives as well. And so we want to help ease the negativity that everybody is kind of finding themselves in these days, with so much uncertainty and so much going on out in the world with this pandemic, and so many changes that we're all being faced with day to day, and just increase the awareness around EFT and tapping as a tool that's available for people to use. So that's really why we're here. So thank you for joining us and allowing us to share this with you.
Yeah, so we have a hour-long session planned. We're just going to do a little introduction, about 10 minutes, and then Andrea is going to lead us in some group tapping. Last week we just did kind of a global tapping on everyone's concerns concerning the pandemic. This week, Andrea is going to focus on using EFT for constricted breathing. So there's an exercise that she's going to lead us through. After that, we're just going to kind of wrap up that portion of the session and do some Q&A. If you have questions that can't wait, feel free to type them into the chat window, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. And after that, we're going to stop the recording part, and I'm going to work with a volunteer. And we're just going to focus on something that you're worried about, maybe something that you're worried about given what's going on right now with the pandemic. And we're going to ask everyone else to tap along. We talked about borrowed benefits last week. If you weren't here, borrowed benefits is that basically says that if you tap along, even if it's not your issue, you're still going to have some benefit from that. You're going to have some release. You may have your own worries, but you're still going to release some of that just by tapping with somebody else. And that's pretty much it. So we're going to try to stick to an hour, and we'll do our best to do that.
All right.
Okay. So I guess I'm doing the first. So we want to go over some ground rules. If you're, we kind of mentioned some of this already, but if you're new to Zoom, we're keeping everyone muted and turning their videos off, except for Andrea and I, and we're using the chat feature to communicate if you need a question or you want to make a comment or anything like that. So feel free to do that.
And then I'm not sure how many people we have here who are new to EFT versus people who have done some EFT or tapping before. And so we're just going to ask you to follow along. There's going to be a time for Q&A later. We're going to send out some handouts and some follow-up information as well after the call. Last week, it took me even longer than I anticipated because I made a big mistake when I was uploading the video the first time, and then I had to redo that, and it takes a while for the videos to upload and render and all of that. So we'll try to get that out a little faster. But it won't be out tonight. It'll be out tomorrow, the video and the follow-up email. Yeah, so one of the things that we want to address is that we're using clinical EFT. So we're doing EFT based on the way that it was originally taught by Gary Craig, the founder and creator of EFT, and the way that emotional freedom techniques has been used in all the scientific research. So we both are accredited through EFT International. It might look a little different if you have been doing some tapping through some other online venues, YouTube videos. The tapping solution might look a little bit different, but what we're using here is pretty much the clinical and classical EFT as it was originally presented by the founder.
Yeah, and what came up last time a little bit is there's a question of a lot of people will teach EFT or, like Andrea said, tapping solution or YouTube videos where they talk about maybe tapping out the negative and tapping in the positive and somehow incorporating positive comments in the tapping rounds. And what we've been taught is that we really focus on tapping out negative. I don't know if tapping out is the right word, but it's like releasing the negative emotions that you have about something. And that as you do that, naturally the positive, or what we would call cognitive shifts, will occur. So for example, like if somebody cuts me off in traffic, I might be really upset by that and maybe a little angry. And if I tap the anger out, I may see things a little differently. Like I may think, oh, well, maybe they had an emergency or something, or they need to get somewhere really fast for some reason, and it's okay. I don't have to be upset about it anymore. So as we tap out the negative, or sometimes we what we want to happen is to have a cognitive shift where we can look at something, the same event, with a broader perspective, from a higher perspective, maybe, and that happens naturally. Um, Having said that, if you're doing tapping on your own already, and you like the way it's working for you, we're not suggesting you change it. We're just doing it the way we've been taught and the way that it is used in clinical studies. So if there's any questions about that, feel free to ask.
Yeah, thanks. And one of the things that I have heard said, and I say myself to clients, is what you resist persists. The first time I heard that was from author Debbie Ford. But you have to bring up that negative because we want to have that up in our energy system so that we can clear it out. And so that's why we're bringing up the negative issue when we're using our statements in EFT, is because we want that present and the thing that's upmost for our energy system at that time, so that we can use the physical tap-in to actually clear that out of the energy system. And so in the way that we've been trained, you don't start tapping in positive until you've totally cleared out that negative. And then, as Chris is saying, it naturally starts to give you this cognitive shift. And then some of those positive phrases you can start to add in and tap in. But that's only after you've gotten the issue down to zero and you're not triggered anymore. So, so then the next thing I wanted to say is it's really good to have some water or a decaffeinated beverage. Being hydrated is really important anytime you're doing any kind of energy work. And then we've both made sure that we washed our hands beforehand because of the pandemic and the concerns that people might have about touching their face right now. We're going to demonstrate 2 different ways. And so I'm going to be showing how to do tapping points without touching your face if you don't want to touch your face. And Chris is going to be showing the traditional tapping points, which include touching the face. And just know that if you're touching your face during this call, go wash your hands immediately when you're done. And then the other thing is, if you get triggered during this and you are starting to have tears, or maybe you're getting really angry about something specific, just keep on tapping. And if you don't find yourself in a position where you're able to actually say the words and follow along by verbally saying those words, that's okay. If you're that into what's happening and you're having tears, that kind of thing, then it's already up in your energy system. The point of verbally saying the words and focusing on the negative in the setup statement is to bring it up in your energy system. If you're crying, then it's already there. So you just need to tap. So just tap, tap, tap. So just keep on tapping anytime something's happening like that, as much as you can. And yeah, I think with that, we can move on to doing the constricted breathing, unless there's anything else you would like to add, Chris.
No, I think you mentioned that I'm going to do the normal and you're going to do the alternative. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I had to go grab some water. I forgot my water myself, so thanks for the reminder.
Okay. Yeah, and I still have not been able to figure out how to make everybody else's stuff disappear like I did last time. Oh wait, here it is. I found it. That is so weird that it's in that spot. Okay, there we go. So now it's just the 2 of us. It just makes it much cleaner for people to see just us following along. Sorry, it took each time about 15 minutes to find it because it's not in one of the regular menus. So what we're going to do now is a really great technique. Somebody said it didn't change anything on their end. That's okay. It changes it for the recording. So it helps for the people who are following the recording afterwards. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a constricted breathing tapping exercise. And this is a great one. I use this a lot to just showcase EFT and how it works. But it's a great one to use anytime if you're just feeling really stressed out, because what tends to happen just it's human and how we work on a physiological level, is when we're stressed out, we become upper chest breathers. And we're not using the full capacity of our lungs and our diaphragm when we're under stress, and that fight, flight, or freeze response gets triggered. And this is something that's going to be able to show how EFT is actually helping relax that response, and it's going to make it easier for us to breathe. So what I want you to do first is to just take 3 nice big deep breaths, just in your own. And then the final and third one. All right. So now I want you to take another deep breath, and this one I want you to pay attention to what it feels like and notice, are you able to get 100% of a deep breath, or is it more like 60%? If you were going to put a percentage on how much oxygen you're able to intake when you're taking your deep breath. And then you can make a note of that, whether mentally or if you want to jot that down. But so take another breath. And for me, it feels around 60%. So I'm going to write that down for myself. But we have a dog that we got in the fall, and she potentially ate a daffodil bulb yesterday afternoon, and they're poisonous. So I've been feeling a little stressed the last 24 hours. She's doing all right. We've been keeping an eye on her, and besides puking up the daffodil bulb, she hasn't had any issues, but I'm definitely can feel things in my chest. So mine's at 60%. So just take note whatever yours is. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to start doing some tapping. So the setup statement, we're going to tap on the side of the hand, and you're going to repeat after me. Even though I have this constricted breathing.
Even though I have this constricted breathing.
I don't feel like I can take a full deep breath.
I don't feel like I can take a full deep breath.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I'm having this constricted breathing.
Even though I'm having this constricted breathing.
Not able to get a full breath.
I'm not able to get a full breath.
And if you want, you can mention the percentage that you have. I can only get a 60%.
I can only get 75%.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
So I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I have this constricted breathing right now.
Even though I have this constricted breathing right now.
I'm not able to get a full breath.
I'm not able to get a full breath.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
And now we're going to go to the tapping points through the rest of the sequence, and I'm going to do the ones not touching my face, and Chris is going to do the regular ones. So top of the head. This constricted breathing.
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 I'm moving to the liver point, which is at the bottom of the rib cage under the breast. This constricted breathing.
This constricted breathing.
This constricted breathing.
This constricted breathing.
And now I'm moving under the arm. This constricted breathing.
This constricted breathing.
Not able to get a full breath.
Not able to get a full breath.
This constricted breathing.
This constricted breathing.
And then the wrist points. This constricted breathing.
This constricted breathing.
Not able to get a full breath.
Not able to get a full breath.
All right. So go ahead and tune back in. Take another deep breath. So take note of how that's changed for you. I feel like mine has gotten up to maybe 80, 85%, starting at 60. So just take note of that. And we're going to continue on and do another round. And so for this round, again, we're going to do the setup statement, starting with tapping on the side of the hand. And this time we're going to say, even though I still have this or this remaining, and it would be the same thing if you were just doing traditional EFT with an emotion, whether it's the sadness, this anger, even though I still have the sadness, when you're doing a second round. So even though I still have some constricted breathing.
Even though I still have some constricted breathing.
I still can't get a full breath.
I still can't get a full breath.
But it's a little better.
But it's a little better.
Only say that if it's true for you, though. I still deeply and completely accept myself.
And I still deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I still have some constricted breathing.
Even though I still have some constricted breathing.
Not quite able to get a full breath yet.
Not quite able to get a full breath yet.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I still have this constricted breathing.
Even though I still have this constricted breathing.
Can't quite get a full breath yet.
I can't quite get a full breath yet.
I still deeply and completely accept myself and how I'm feeling.
I still deeply and completely accept myself and how I'm feeling.
All right, so again, top of the head. I still have constricted breathing.
I still have some constricted breathing.
I still have constricted breathing.
I still have constricted breathing.
This constricted breath.
This constricted breath.
I'm still having some constricted breathing.
I'm still having some constricted breathing.
You can also just do one hand like this. Moving down to the liver point for those who don't want to touch their face. On the bottom of the rib cage. This constricted breath.
This constricted breath.
Still have some constricted breathing.
I still have some constricted breathing.
Still some remaining constricted breathing.
Still some remaining constricted breathing.
This constricted breathing.
This constricted breathing.
This remaining constricted breathing.
This remaining constricted breathing.
All right. So again, if you want to close your eyes, that's optional. Tune back in. Take another deep breath. So for me, it's definitely gotten a lot better. It's maybe not 100%, but it's pretty high up there. And I can feel like when you're taking a deep breath, but you're feeling kind of that stress response and you can't get the whole thing in, I can usually feel like a little catch somewhere, and that moves for me as it gets better. And so mine moved up. So it's like the catch was down here more in the beginning, and now it's kind of up here, and I feel like I'm almost I'm at like 95% maybe. So Amanda just shared. Anybody else want to share anything they're noticing about their breath now that's different? Maybe it's just the percentage gotten bigger, but it might be a quality or a feeling in your lungs or your chest that changed. If anybody would like to share that. So Amanda says hers is definitely better. From 60% not using the diaphragm now up to 85 or 90%. All right, we got from 70 to 80 to 83%, lower to higher as well. Nice. Yeah, Jody says her pelvic floor is kicked in. That's great. Yeah, a couple other comments. Thanks everybody for sharing. So that's a really simple technique, and you could do even another round. We're going to stop after just the 2 rounds here, so we can move on and answer some questions and take a volunteer. But basically, this is a really good one that you can just do anytime that you're finding yourself feeling really stressed, under pressure, holding your breath. Like that's something that I started to realize years ago, that when I was really stressed out, I was actually not even really breathing. And so I found years ago a Post-it note that had already printed on the top, things to do today. Number 1, breathe in. Number 2, breathe out. And I had that for years when I was in my corporate job. and it helped me remember to breathe when I was feeling stressed out at work. So, so just remember this is a technique that you can take with you into your daily lives, and use anytime you're feeling stressed.
Really great, Andrea. So next, I think we did this last time if you were here, but we're gonna do a technique called sneaking away. And sneaking away is a tapping around that we do when we've done some work on something, but we maybe didn't get all the way through it. We didn't get to a 0, we didn't get to 100% in this case. So we're just gonna do a round on that, and I'm gonna use some of the statements you have provided in the chat window. So even though I didn't get to 100% breathing,
Even though I didn't get to 100% with my breathing,
I am breathing much better now.
I am breathing much better now.
Even though I'm not quite at full capacity,
Even though I'm not quite at full capacity,
my percentage really went up.
my percentage really went up.
Even though I still have a little bit of constricted breathing,
Even though I still have a little bit of constricted breathing,
my lungs are feeling much easier now.
my lungs are feeling much easier now.
Let me go around the points. I'm definitely breathing better than I was.
I'm definitely breathing better than I was.
I really became aware of my breathing.
I really became aware of my breathing.
I'm taking deeper breaths now.
I'm taking deeper breaths now.
That breathing really relaxed me.
That breathing really relaxed me.
And I want to mention something again, that as we tap through the points, if I say something or Andrea say something that doesn't really work for you, feel free to change it to your own words. That's always a good idea. Under the nose now. I'm breathing a lot better than I was.
I'm breathing a lot better than I was.
On the chin, that deep breathing gave me more energy.
Deep breathing gave me more energy.
I feel more awake now.
Feel more awake now.
I'm glad I learned this new technique.
I'm glad I learned this new technique.
Okay, and that's what we call sneaking away. So basically, even though if you didn't get to 100%, you didn't get down to intensity of 0 on your tapping, you can do this technique. And I don't know about you folks, but I always love doing this. It's like it's kind of a way. We talk about tapping in the positive. This is a good time to actually acknowledge the changes you've seen in your tapping rounds, and to mention them as you tap around the body. So it is definitely a time when you can put in the positive shifts that you got from your tapping.
Yeah, and so this is a great thing to use because often if you're trying to do EFT on your own, but even in sessions with my clients, you have to go back to your regular life, and you didn't necessarily get to wrap everything up in a tidy little bow at the end of your tapping session. And so this sneaking away is a way to address the positive shifts that have happened, and acknowledge that you're not done, like you didn't get to where you would like to be potentially, and you can always come back later. And so that's a really great technique to use when you're doing tapping on your own, because often we might get into something and be like, okay, there's a lot more here emotionally than what I realized until I started tapping on it, and I don't have time to finish this. I've got to go like make dinner or or see my next client or whatever that is. And so this is a way that you can kind of try and tidy it up a little bit, and acknowledge some of the work that you did, and also that you're not quite done yet. So.
And yes, Amanda, it's not uncommon to feel even more of an increase when you're doing sneaking away. In fact, Andre and I were just talking about this earlier, that sometimes you may not feel complete release as you're tapping on something, but later on you might. It's almost like it just takes the body a little longer to process something, but it's very common that you might feel even more release later after you've done the session.
Yeah, and the whole point of doing sneaking away is so that you do feel better when you're done, because when I'm in a client session, we may not get to a point where it's been completely zeroed out. We like to try and get people to a 3 or better if you're using the typical SUD scale of 0 to 10 instead of the 0 to 100% that we were just using. But that's not always possible. And so sneaking away using that technique is a way to help the person feel better, even though the presenting issue that we were working on is not wrapped up in any way. So it is normal for people to start to feel better, and often keep processing and feeling even better after the session too, as Chris was mentioning. So I'm going to turn it over, I think, or no, okay, we have some more things to talk about first. So we're doing this a little bit backwards just because when we take a volunteer, we don't want to record that. We want to keep things private for whoever it is that's willing to step up and be the volunteer for the session. And so we're kind of doing some of the Q&A and wrap up here because we're going to stop the video here shortly. So when this is all done, I will be emailing basic handouts, the EFT setup statement and phrases that we typically are using, along with the points that we're using when we're tapping. And we're going to link to a few other things as well, plus the recording you will be getting. People are going to be getting added to my newsletter as a way for us to kind of manage the growing list of people, but that's something that you can unsubscribe from at any time if you don't want to be on it beyond these calls. And I don't send out a bunch of stuff on a regular basis, so you shouldn't be getting spammed from me, but just so you know that that's something that's happening. And then we just want to open it up if anybody has any other questions, like the question Amanda just asked, if you just have any general EFT questions before we move on to take in a volunteer.
And while we're waiting for questions, if there are any, we just want to mention that we both have a private practice doing EFT work with clients, and I'm offering a free consultation and a free session if you'd like to try that out. Andrea's going to send out in the email our contact information, so feel free to contact me, and then Andrea will talk about what she's offering.
Yeah, so thanks, Chris. And we did have a question, but it was sent to me privately, so I'll get Mira's question here in a second. But yes, I work with clients one-on-one, so I'm offering a discount in my normal 5-session package, and we both do free consultations so that you can make sure that we're a good fit for each other. And I'm also wanting to start a group tapping session that would be a closed group, so you would sign up and it would be 4 weeks tapping together once a week as a group, and it's going to be limited to a total of 8 people. And so if that's something that you're interested in, that is, I love group work, but I'm going to offer this even a steeper discount than what the group sessions normally are. So it works out to be $7 a session for 4 sessions. And we can always talk about continue it on more than for 4 weeks if people have the need and the interest. But I wanted to have that available for people in case there are people wanted to get into some stuff deeper that's coming up for them around the pandemic and everything that's going on, but didn't have necessarily access to have 5 individual sessions. So more information will come with the follow-up about that. And the question that Mira was asking is she wants to be clear about what the difference is between regular tapping and sneaking away. So with the regular tapping, we're using the setup statement. So we're saying, even though I have this emotion, so in what we were just doing, we were doing it around our breath, but often we're doing it around we're feeling sad or we're feeling angry or frustrated or whatever these different emotions are we might be having. And then you would say something specific to the situation. So I'll use one, even though I have this headache, so that instead of emotion, it's a pain, even though I have this headache, and then you would get specific and say, in my right temple, I still deeply and completely accept myself. And so say we did a couple rounds of that and it kind of moved around a bit, and now it started out as a 7, and now the headache's completely gone, or maybe the headache moved and it's not on the right side anymore, it's on the left side. So this, for sneaking away, you would say, even though I still have a little bit of a headache, I did get some improvement, it did move around, and I deeply and completely accept myself. So you're acknowledging what you did and what has improved, and also acknowledging the fact that you're not totally done, you still have the problem. So I don't know if that answers your question thoroughly enough there, Mira, about the difference, but it's basically a technique to acknowledge the benefits that you have gotten from the previous tapping that you've just done, and acknowledging anything that didn't get totally cleared up before you had to move on and stop your tapping. So hopefully that covers it. And feel free to send another note if that didn't cover that there.
Okay. Do we want to talk about next session at all, Andrea?
Yeah, we could just briefly mention. So right for now, we're going to continue on with the 4 p.m. on Wednesdays, but there's possibility that that might be changing, but we don't know for sure yet. So I guess you can just stay tuned for that information. I don't know if you wanted to say anything else about that, Chris, or not.
Yeah, I may be starting a new job, and so I may have to not be able to participate at this time, but maybe move back to a later time. But Andrea and I are talking whether she wants to just continue doing it this time, or we're going to move it. But we'll talk about that. We'll let you know. So.
Yeah. So he might be starting a new job. So yay for
Yay.
that.
Yay. Okay. So yeah. Well, Andrea, you want to talk about bar and benefits real quick one more time?
Yeah, talk about bar and benefits really quick, and then stop the recording and ask for a volunteer. So the idea with borrowing benefits in EFT is that you don't have to be tapping about your specific issue, whether it's a physical issue, or if it's you know, an emotional issue, which is a lot of what we're working on when we're doing EFT. So right now in this moment, just pay attention to what it is that's up for you. So whether that's something that's a physical pain, or whether that's some other kind of anxiety or stress or negative emotion that you're feeling right now. And if you want, you can write it down. You can give it a number from 0 to 10, and then just kind of forget about that. And what we're going to do is you're just going to tap along, and I'll be doing it as well with Chris and the person who volunteers. And then at the end, you can check back in and see, did you actually get any movement and benefit on your own issue, even though you were tapping along and using the words for somebody else's issue. And it's really pretty fascinating how well this works. One of the things that will come out in the email is I have a borrowing benefits playlist that I've put together on YouTube, and you can watch other people doing full hour-long client sessions with EFT and tap along to these client sessions. And then when you're done, you're like, hey, I feel better with my own issue, even though this session didn't have anything to do with my issue. So that's the idea behind borrowing benefits. And one of the follow-up links will be kind of describing that in more detail for those who are interested. But with that, we're looking for a volunteer, and Chris can speak more to that, and I will stop the recording.
Okay. So for